Hello lovely people, and welcome back to this week's new video. Today I was thinking of wearing my glasses for this video, but it got too dark out and I'm using the ring light and I can't be bothered to put in my contacts, so hopefully this looks good. Hello, if you're new here, my name is Noah. I'm a bookish and lifestyle vlogger born and raised and still based in New York City, so if that sounds like of any interest to you, I would absolutely love it if you would stick around to the end and subscribe if you so please. Today I am here with my May wrap-up. Now if you watch my videos, you'll know that this is weird. I never do wrap-ups. It's because I vlog a lot on my channel, but May was a pretty interesting month for me. I participated in Asian Readathon. I had a whole TBR for it, which is rare as well because I'm a mood reader. I didn't get to vlog a lot. I fell into a little bit of a rut. I kind of was just uninspired. I wasn't reading that much, and all the books that I was reading just wasn't great. I was in a reading slump, I was in a YouTube slump, and overall wasn't feeling hot. So I thought that because of the lack of vlogs that I would come here to do a wrap up for Asian Readathon mostly, but also for May. I only was able to read a total of 6 books. I am still working on a book that I started at the end of the month that I'll talk about a little bit at the end. I will be popping on my glasses a little bit just to see things because your girl has very terrible vision. We'll just do this weird librarian look so that the ring light isn't really blinding anybody. I started off the month reading The Aosawa Murders by Riku Onda, which fulfilled the prompt of read a book featuring an Asian character who is a woman and or is older. This book was about a family, the Aosawas, who were celebrating a big birthday party when 17 people were murdered. They were poisoned, cyanide poisoning. And this book is following a few interviews decades later, one of them being an inspector. Now, one person who admitted to the crime died by suicide, leaving a suicide note saying that they did it. But this didn't sit right with the inspector, and so what I believe the interviews are supposed to be are trying to figure out who did it, but we don't know who the actual interviewer is. It might be like the author or new author or whoever. We don't get to hear any of the questions, so that was very complex, I guess, for me, and a little bit boring because a lot of the parts weren't even about the crime, and the only interesting part for me was the inspector, and that was pretty at the beginning of the book. I ended up giving this book 2 stars. It just was really boring, and I feel like the mystery aspect was supposed to be really interesting, and it could have been really interesting because cyanide poisoning, a lot of people died in a really gruesome way, but I didn't feel like that was solved for me. And the mystery of like whether or not the survivor in the family was the blind daughter, like whether she did it or not, I didn't think that was good suspect because she barely was in the book. Next book that I read was Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyan, which was to fulfill the first prompt of read a book by an Asian author, and she is of Malaysian descent, and Riku Onda for the Aosawa Murders is Japanese, and it was a translated work. I gave this book 3 stars. So this book is a series. I think it's so far a duology. I'm not really sure. In this fantasy world, it's YA. There are girls who are chosen to be paper girls for the king, and you are taken against your will to get training, and you get dressed and you live in the palace as this prisoner. Our main character, whose name I have completely forgotten, Lei. See how close I have to hold up my phone to be able to see this? She is in this oppressive place, and then she falls in love, which is forbidden. You're seen as like a traitor to the king and whatnot, so she's trying to figure out how that she can be in this situation in her life or get out of it and also be in love. She has to decide how far she's willing to go for love, justice, and also a little bit of revenge. I think it was a good start for me. Fantasy isn't really my genre of choice. It takes me a while to get invested into the story. So usually with the sequels, I start to understand a little bit more and get more excited. So I definitely am interested in picking up the sequel for this one. And the first one was a good start into the world. I definitely want to know what's going to happen next. Book 3 of May was The Cartographers by Peng Shepherd, which is now on my sister's TBR shelf because she wants to read it. Let me see if I remember her name. Nell. Her father was found dead over this map. He used to work at the New York Public Library, and this map that he was found over turns out to be quite significant to her. Now, her father and her had a falling out a few years ago, and he completely destroyed her career. She no longer works in the field or in like something that's considered respectable. She notices that some things about her father's death are suspicious, thinks that he's murdered, and is determined to figure out what happened to him. This book is supposed to have a little bit of magical realism, a little bit of a fantasy aspect to it, and this was also a book that I read for the third prompt of Read a Book written by an Asian author that has a universe you want to experience or a universe different from yours. So obviously with it being a little bit of a fantasy, I wanted to choose it. However, this book, I think I gave like 1.5 stars to 2 stars because this book truly was not for me. I did not like any of the fantasy aspects. I feel like there wasn't really one. I felt like the story just wasn't there, and the book was way too long. I think a lot of it could have been cut out. There were parts in perspectives of characters that I didn't think were necessary. I feel like that could have all been just cut out with dialogue. There was also this romance that I didn't care for and didn't understand. Overall, I just felt like it dragged on a lot. Next book is Thank You Mama by Linda Meeker, which was a picture book. It's a picture book. I've been following the account Gray and Mama for a few years now. They went viral for this mother, Linda, giving her child food and stuff like that, and Gray answering with "Thank you, Mama," and that really blew up. And he's so adorable. He's such a good little boy, and they have the most adorable family. The mom came up with a picture book, and it is just so sweet. I like love their account so much, and it's just a sweet little picture book. I gave it 5 stars. Teaches like kids manners, to be kind, and know and like gratitude. So I thought it was really sweet, and I had a lovely time reading that book. Book number 4 I read was These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, which I read for prompt number 4 of Read a Book by an Asian author with a cover worthy of googly eyes, and Chloe Gong is Vietnamese. This book is a reimagining of Romeo and Juliet. Chloe Gong is a huge fan of this Shakespeare play. There is Roma, who is with the White Flowers, and Juliet, who is with the Scarlet Gang. Obviously, there are 2 rival gangs and this book takes place in 1920s Shanghai. The fantasy aspect of it is that there is a madness that is overtaking the city, and people are clawing their throats out, and they're being overtaken with this sickness, and the 2 gangs must come together, put aside their rivalry to help the city. I also gave this book 2 stars. I feel like the world building just wasn't enough for me. I just felt like the book kept going on and on. Because I wasn't taking enough time to read throughout the day, this book took me a really long time to get through, and because of that, I kind of was getting really tired of it. I felt like there was a lot more description there was a lot more telling rather than showing, and a lot of that factored into why I was getting bored. And because of that, I couldn't really get connected to any of the characters, and I just didn't really feel like it was enjoyable. I don't think I will be picking up the sequel for this one. I was also kind of confused. I know this book was really hyped up, but I just didn't think that it was for me. Book number 6, the last one, is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, which I also ended up giving 2.5 stars, which is why this reading month kind of really sucked for me. Colleen Hoover is quite a popular author. I'm sure everyone and anyone has heard of her, and she went really viral on TikTok as well. I have only read 1 book by her. I think it's called, I want to say that it's Regretting You. Oh, it is Regretting You. Amazing. I read Regretting You, and I gave that 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. But I've heard kind of mixed things. I've heard that her older books aren't as good because she has evolved a lot more now in many ways. I think some of them could be a little bit misogynistic or something like that. I picked this up, very, very popular read. I feel like it's one of at least the top 3 books that I see people reading by her. I finally got it from the library. It was a very, very long wait. This book is following Lily, and she meets Ryle, and they are getting into this romance, but there's a guy from her past named Atlas who comes and kind of confuses her. She doesn't know what she wants, if she wants something new and exciting with Ryle or to go back to her first love, that is Atlas. This book was really cheesy, and I felt it was very fast-paced. I read it definitely the fastest this entire month. I read it in like a day or 2. It's a little bit of a darker romance. I will warn you, a few trigger warnings. There is physical abuse, sexual assault in there, so it is a little bit more intense. However, I felt like the relationship between Ryle and Lily progressed in the blink of an eye. I was reading it and all of a sudden they were like so far into the relationship, and I don't know if that was like on purpose, if it just happened to progress like that. Like, so much happened within 6 months. Lily is also very young. She was like 23 and Ryle is 32, 30. He's in his 30s, and I don't mind the age gap, but I felt like Lily was a little bit too, she seemed older than her age, and she clearly had a lot of privilege. That part wasn't clicking with me. None of the characters really I liked, and I felt like I liked Atlas, you know, in the flashbacks. But then he just kind of was like nobody in when they were adults. Lily, at times she would seem really a lot older and very mature, but at other times she seemed really immature, like a 16-year-old having a journal. Fine, that's fine. I still journal to this day. But then she's like writing it as a letter to a celebrity, which I found very odd and strange. Like, maybe when you're a kid, but I felt like she could have graduated out of that. None of the characters stood out to me, and I didn't think it to be enjoyable. Was it a quick read? Awesome, yes, because I'm so behind on my Goodreads challenge at this point, but I didn't think that it was too great. So it's a huge difference between a 5-star book by her and reading one that's 2.5, so I think I will still pick up some of her books. And then the 7th book that I had started, but now it's June, so I'll be continuing reading it, is Jade War by Fonda Lee, which is the sequel to Jade City. Now, I'm really excited about this trilogy. It's very long. It's over 500 pages, so this is a great time for me being behind on my Goodreads. But this book is still following the Call family. It's about greenbone warriors who use jade as a source of energy to, you know, be warriors. So that's essentially what the first book is about. They do have a rival gang, which is what the second book is mostly following, the war between the two. It's been a while since I've read the first one, so I'm kind of, you know, still finding my footing at the beginning. I'm not too far into it, but I can't wait. I didn't really know what the second book was about. I just knew that I wanted to read it, so I don't really know what to expect with this one. I just know that I'm gonna have a good time with it. So this is what I'm reading. You'll see more about it in my vlog for next week, which is the last week of May. I hope you all had a better reading month than I did in May. This is the least I have read all year, and I just feel like with a book that I'm enjoying now, it's going to be better. It's only going to go up from here. So I don't yet know what I'm going to read in June because I'm a mood reader, but I hope that you all have a wonderful reading month, a wonderful Pride month, and I will see you all in my video next week. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!